The structures are massive, ancient, and glorious. They have inspired humanity for centuries. Some have been labeled the wonders of the world, but their origins are mysterious and controversial.
All around the world, from Gobekli Tepe in southeastern Turkey to the high Andes in Bolivia with the Gate of the Sun, Pyramids of Egypt, we find these megalithic constructions that nobody knows how they are constructed.
If there was just one anomaly, or even three, that would be one thing, but there's thousands all around the world. From pyramids in Egypt, Guatemala, Mexico, some of them dating of the time of hunters and gatherers. For instance, in Turkey, temples have been found that are built out of megalithic rocks, 12,000 to 13,000 years old.
How is it possible that supposedly primitive peoples, hunter-gatherers, they don't have the wheel, they don't have an organized culture supposedly, but somehow they're able to build these constructions out of 5, 10, 20,000-ton blocks of stone that sometimes they haul for miles before they're put into their ultimate location.
The blocks that they were using to build these temples were so massive that they couldn't have been dragged along by manual human labor and then put into exact perfect position. And then the arrangement of one block to another was fit so tightly and so perfectly.
We know that in ancient times, many people built beautiful buildings, beautiful cathedrals, without knowing mathematics and modern principles.
Some of these remarkable monuments are not anything we could reproduce today with all of our technology currently.
How were these giant stone structures created, and by whom?
People who was transforming to higher states of consciousness. And in these higher states, they got understanding what should be done and how they can do it.
Or it was using sound technology to create an anti-gravity field or some kind of magnetic resonance. There was a way that they had an advanced technology to build these temples and these megaliths.
It might have been sound or frequency in combination with technology that at certain frequency would produce gravitational effects.
There's no other real, truly scientific explanation for how they accomplished what they accomplished.
The ultimate answer has to involve sound. They must have been able somehow to put themselves into some kind of sympathetic resonance with these materials. Personally, I believe it makes sense that many thousands of years ago, Earth was in a different vibrational state than it is today.
The possibilities are as intriguing as the buildings themselves. But maybe that's not where we should start, unraveling the mystery.
We tend today to always look at the actual constructions on the site, rather than starting by looking at the land itself. In all of these cases in the ancient world, and only in very recent times, was the understanding that you always look for the sacred power spots first.
Many megalithic sites, including pyramids and stone circles and sacred sites around the world, are deliberately located on Earth energy lines or at nodal points of this global Earth frequency grid.
These are the points on the Earth that have a particular power to them, that have a particular vibrational quality. And that vibrational quality is actually the energy quality of the original unified field, the singularity state, the one that everything came out of.
They seem to be intended for transmuting or channeling the energy for healing or ceremonial purposes.
These sacred power spots on Earth function similar to chakras or acupuncture points in the human body. And they will have the ability to help to harmonize energetic fields in consciousness through the energy of that site.
These power spots have unique alignments across the globe.
Everywhere you look on the planet, you find these magnetic nodes which have these power locations coming up out of the Earth, whipping around the planet. But these locations are where a lot of the ancient temples and structures are built.
You can start to see that they were not just placed randomly around the world, but they seem to be placed in very specific relationship to each other and with very specific mathematical angles to each other. Teotihuacan being a great example where you have the moon pyramid, the sun pyramid, and what is called the way of the dead, which I like to think of as more the way of initiation.
Biggest power spot becomes where the palace of the ruler will be formed. Then other power spots will be where they place all the different temples and the places to connect directly to spirit. They'll also take the power spots and they'll create a pathway from it, knowing that the pathway, which would later become the road systems, is going to be a type of channel, and it will take the power spot energy and run it along the pathway as if it was water running along a water channel.
Underneath the Pyramid of the Sun and also Great Pyramid at Giza, they have the ability to absorb something called physiostatic electricity from running water. As the water moves under the magnetized granite at the base, it creates physiostatic electricity, which these ions rush up into the pyramid itself, and there it's sent into specific chambers. Once it hits these different chambers, the hypothesis is that in some way it creates electric power, and in some way it comes out of the apex of these pyramids.
Another way to look at this energy current is from a sonic or musical perspective.
For instance, in Teotihuacan, this way of the dead had waterways that flowed from one level to the other, to the other, to the other, showing very specific relationship between each of these cascades of water to produce very specific musical harmonics across the whole complex.
At Chichen Itza, you see something really amazing. You have the Pyramid of Kukulkan, which is a great temple. And then you also have the Temple of the Warriors, and you have the observatory. These structures were built long before the Mayans even arrived. The Mayans learned about some of the secrets of the sounds and frequencies that are emanating from that location. Depending on where you're standing, you can hear different sounds. If you clap or make a certain noise, you can get different echoes back.
All of these are nodal points on a web or matrix of energy across the Earth's surface that in the ancient traditions of the West was referred to as the net. And the people in ancient Egypt that knew how to work with this vibrational matrix were literally called in the documents from ancient Egypt the masters of the net.
Could it be that the masters of the net were leaving us a spiritual and technological blueprint for all ages?
If you look at the Teotihuacan pyramid complex in Mexico, right by Mexico City, you discover something amazing. First of all, they have the same exact alignment of the three pyramids at Giza by the Great Pyramid. The second thing is that the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan is exactly 50% of the height of the Great Pyramid located at Giza in Egypt. Also, what's amazing is the base of the Pyramid of the Sun is exactly the same exact size as the base of the Great Pyramid at Giza. So what does this tell us? It tells us that it's the same architect. The same architect that built the Great Pyramid complex at Giza is the same exact architect that designed the Teotihuacan Pyramid complex.
Who were the masters of the net? And where do we find them in the ancient texts?
Biblically, we have the story of Joshua and the walls of Jericho.
Joshua, who is the successor of Moses, who was trained in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, has an extraordinary way of bringing down these walls. The Lord tells him to have his warriors walk around the perimeter of the walls of Jericho once a day for 6 days. They're following 7 priests who have ram's horns in their hands, and they're also carrying the Ark of the Covenant. And he tells them that on the 7th day, they are all to walk around the walls of Jericho 7 times, while the priests simultaneously blow a long blast with their horns.
And then at one point they gave a great shout, and the walls came down.
What that tells us is that they're walking in unison, they're shouting in unison, and there must have been a consciousness component as well. And with that sound, they're able then to bring down the walls of Jericho.
The ancient people possibly had a way to reach sympathetic resonance with each other and with a given material, such as stone, and its particular density, which is also a frequency.
If they knew the correct resonant frequency of whatever made up the walls, they could have conceptually used sound in that manner.
The Bible makes clear that it wasn't the Ark of the Covenant that brought down those walls. It was the power of sound and the unified consciousness of the soldiers and the priests.
Conspiracy can mean a secret plan, often negatively oriented. But the actual breakdown of the word in Latin, conspire, means to breathe together. So anytime people do singing groups together, chanting mantras or praying together, visualizing together, dancing together, this is a kind of conspiracy. Anything powerful can be used to heal or to harm.